every second, your body is running a silent communication network. Your stomach, brain, pancreas, muscles, bones, skin, and reproductive organs all need to coordinate with each other, but most of them never touch directly. Hormones are one of the main ways they send instructions across distance. A hormone is a signaling molecule released by one part of an organism to influence another part, often far away from where it was made. The word comes from an ancient Greek idea meaning something like setting in motion, which fits perfectly. Hormones do not build tissue by themselves. They trigger changes. They tell cells when to absorb sugar, when to grow, when to conserve energy, when to prepare for stress, when to sleep, and when to reproduce. Without them, a complex multicellular organism would be like a city with no messaging system, many parts, but no coordination. The important thing about hormones is that they are defined more by what they do than by what they are made of. Many people imagine hormones as one small category of chemicals, but biology uses the term broadly. Some hormones are proteins or peptides, like insulin. Some are steroids, like estrogen and testosterone. Some come from amino acids, like epinephrine, also known as adrenaline. Some are fatty signaling molecules, such as prostaglandins. In plants, molecules like auxin or ethylene act as hormones too. Even gases can function as signaling molecules in certain biological contexts. This variety matters because different hormone types move through the body differently and interact with cells differently. The common theme is communication. A molecule is produced in one location, transported or diffused elsewhere, and then changes the behavior of a target cell that is equipped to recognize it. Hormones only work because target cells have receptors. A hormone floating through the bloodstream does not affect every cell it passes. It is more like a key moving through a building full of locked doors. Only cells with the matching lock can respond. That lock is a receptor protein either on the cell surface or inside the cell. When the hormone binds to the receptor, it changes the receptor's shape or activity. That begins a chain reaction called signal transduction. The message outside the cell becomes action inside the cell. Depending on the hormone and receptor, that action might change enzyme activity within seconds, open or close channels, alter metabolism, or eventually change which genes are turned on. So a tiny amount of hormone can create a large biological effect, because the original signal is amplified through many steps inside the target cell. One major difference between hormones is whether they dissolve easily in water or in fat. Water-soluble hormones, such as many peptides and amines, usually cannot pass directly through the fatty outer membrane of a cell. Instead, they bind to receptors on the cell surface. The receptor then activates internal messengers, often called second messengers, that carry the instruction deeper into the cell. This allows rapid responses. Insulin is a classic example. It binds outside cells and triggers internal pathways that help move glucose out of the blood and into tissues. Lipid-soluble hormones, such as many steroid hormones, can often pass through cell membranes and bind receptors inside the cytoplasm or nucleus. These hormones commonly affect gene transcription, meaning they can influence which proteins a cell makes. Their effects may be slower, but they can reshape cell behavior in lasting ways. In vertebrates, many hormones are produced by endocrine glands. These are specialized organs that release hormones directly into the bloodstream rather than through ducts. The thyroid, adrenal glands, pituitary gland, pancreas, ovaries, and testes are familiar examples. Once a hormone enters circulation, it can reach distant organs in a relatively short time. This is different from the exocrine system, where secretions travel through ducts, such as digestive enzymes entering the gut. Endocrine signaling is powerful because blood connects the whole body. But it also requires precision. If hormones simply flooded the bloodstream without control, the results could be dangerous. That is why secretion is typically regulated by biochemical signals, nervous system input, and feedback loops. The body is not just sending messages, it is constantly measuring the results and adjusting the volume. feedback regulation is one of the most elegant parts of hormone biology. A simple example is blood sugar control. After a meal, glucose levels rise in the bloodstream. The pancreas detects this change and releases insulin. Insulin tells many cells, especially muscle and fat cells, to take up glucose, while also influencing how the liver stores and releases energy. As blood glucose falls back toward a healthy range, the stimulus for insulin release decreases. This is negative feedback. The result of the signal reduces the need for more of that signal. Negative feedback helps maintain homeostasis, the stable internal conditions that organisms need to survive. Temperature, blood pressure, metabolism, calcium levels, and many reproductive processes use similar logic. Hormones are not just commands, they are part of self-correcting control systems. Hormones also differ in how they travel. Water-soluble hormones can usually move freely in blood because blood is mostly water. Lipid-soluble hormones have a different problem. They do not mix well with watery plasma. Many of them travel attached to carrier proteins. These carrier proteins act like transport vehicles, keeping the hormone stable and soluble until it reaches target tissues. Thyroid hormones, for example, often bind to carrier proteins in the bloodstream. This affects how long a hormone stays active, how quickly it is cleared, and how much is available to tissues at any moment. Some hormones are secreted in active form and can begin working quickly. Others are released as prohormones, inactive or less active precursors that must be converted into their active form by specific cells or enzymes. This adds another layer of control. Hormone action is not limited to the classic picture of a gland releasing a molecule into the blood. Some signaling happens locally. Paracrine signaling occurs when a hormone-like molecule diffuses through nearby tissue and affects neighboring cells. This is useful when a message should stay local rather than broadcast through the whole body. Prostaglandins, for example, often act near where they are produced and can influence inflammation, blood flow, pain, and other local responses. There is also autocrine signaling, where a cell responds to a signal it released itself. Biology uses all of these communication distances, local whispers, regional instructions, and full-body broadcasts. The endocrine system is famous because of its long-distance blood-borne signals, but the wider hormonal world includes many layers of chemical conversation happening at once. The effects of hormones are incredibly broad because they influence the basic choices cells make. In animals, hormones help regulate digestion, metabolism, respiration, sleep, stress, excretion, growth, movement, reproduction, lactation, sensory perception, and mood. That does not mean one hormone controls one behavior in a simple on-off way. Usually, many hormones interact. Stress responses, for instance, involve adrenaline for immediate alertness and cortisol for longer metabolic adjustments. Reproduction depends on coordinated hormone cycles, not a single molecule acting alone. Growth requires signals such as growth hormone, thyroid hormones, insulin-like growth factors, nutrition status, and tissue responsiveness. Mood and behavior also reflect networks, not isolated switches. Hormones are powerful, but they operate in systems. The same hormone can have different effects depending on timing, dose, receptor type, tissue condition, and the presence of other signals. Plants use hormones too, even though they do not have endocrine glands like animals. Plant hormones help regulate nearly every stage of development, from seed germination to aging and senescence. Auxin, for example, is produced especially in growing regions such as young leaves and shoot tips, and it helps guide growth direction and pattern. Ethylene, a gaseous hormone, is involved in processes like fruit ripening and responses to stress. Because plants are rooted in place, hormonal coordination is essential. A plant must adjust growth toward light, manage water stress, repair damage, time flowering, and respond to its environment without moving away. Unlike animals, plants do not rely on specialized hormone-secreting organs. The main production sites can change depending on the plant's age, tissue type, and environmental conditions. Their chemical messaging is flexible because their survival depends on adaptation. One reason hormones can seem confusing is that the same molecule may have different roles in different organisms, tissues, or contexts. Steroid-like molecules are not only animal sex hormones. Plants also have steroid hormones, such as brassinosteroids, which regulate growth and development. Some research has explored how certain plant steroid pathways may relate to anti-cancer effects in endocrine-responsive tumors, because hormone signaling and cell growth are deeply connected biological themes. But this does not mean plant hormones are magic cures or that all steroid hormones behave the same way. The lesson is more subtle. Hormone biology is ancient, diverse, and built around molecular recognition. A molecule's effect depends on receptors, pathways, and the living system receiving the signal. Context turns chemistry into meaning. So hormones are not mysterious forces floating around the body. They are information molecules. They allow distant tissues to coordinate, let cells respond to changing conditions, and help organisms maintain balance while still adapting to growth, stress, reproduction, and the environment. Their power comes from specificity. Only cells with the right receptors respond. Their safety comes from regulation. Feedback loops raise or lower secretion as conditions change. Their diversity comes from chemistry. Peptides, steroids, amino acid derivatives, fatty molecules, and gases can all serve as signals. And their importance extends beyond humans into animals, plants, and fungi. To understand hormones is to understand that life is not just built from cells. It is built from communication between cells, and hormones are among the most important messages keeping that communication alive. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.